I still remember the way the clock ticked that night, each second dragging across my chest like a dull knife. 24 years of marriage, and yet there I was, pacing the living room like a stranger in my own home. The dinner table sat empty, candles unlit, and the roast chicken I had prepared hours earlier had grown cold. My wife Diane had told me she had a girls' night out, but after so many years together, I knew her patterns, her voice, her eyes. And that night, her eyes had betrayed her. She wasn't with her friends. She was on a date, and I wasn't going to wait another 24 years to face the truth. The first signs, it started small, as most betrayals do. Diane became more protective of her phone, the device practically glued to her hand. She started dressing differently, spending longer in front of the mirror before running errands. She laughed at text messages she wouldn't show me, and carried the faintest trace of cologne that wasn't mine. At first, I told myself it was paranoia. After all, we'd raised kids together, bought a home, survived the loss of her mother, and celebrated countless anniversaries. Who cheats after all that? But then came the lie. Girls' night, she had said, slipping into a black dress I hadn't seen in years. It clung to her body in a way that was more seductive than casual. She wore lipstick, heels, and perfume, the kind of effort she hadn't shown for me in a long time. My gut twisted. My wife wasn't going to meet her friends. The decision. I could have confronted her right then, demanded answers, pleaded, shouted, begged for the truth. But instead, something inside me shifted. I thought of the years I'd given her, late nights working overtime to pay for our house, sacrificing vacations so she could care for her sick mother, swallowing my own dreams so we could build a family together. If she truly was betraying me, she didn't deserve another fight, another word. She deserved consequences. So while she left the house with a smile that wasn't meant for me, I made a call. My attorney, whom I'd spoken to earlier that week when doubts became unbearable, answered on the first ring. "Tonight," I said. "Send the process server tonight." The wait, the hours stretched painfully. I sat in the living room, staring at the wedding photo on the mantel. We looked so young there, her in her lace gown, me in a suit too big for my frame. Both of us beaming with promises we thought would last forever. I whispered to that photograph, "What happened to us?" Diane, what happened to forever? The house felt emptier than it had in years. Every creak of the wood, every hum of the refrigerator only reminded me that my wife was somewhere laughing with another man, sharing secrets, holding hands, maybe even kissing lips that once swore they belonged only to me. And then came the sound I'd been waiting for, the crunch of tires on the driveway, the confrontation. Diane walked through the door with flushed cheeks, the faintest trace of alcohol on her breath, and a sparkle in her eyes I hadn't seen directed at me in years. She froze when she saw me sitting there still in my work clothes, my hands clasped tightly. "Tom," she said, voice faltering. "You're still up?" "Yeah," I replied, my voice flat. I was waiting. She hesitated, setting her purse down. "Listen, But the knock at the door interrupted her. Diane blinked, confused, as I rose to answer it. Standing, there was a man in a suit holding a sealed envelope. "Mrs. Diane Walker?" he asked. She stepped forward, instinctively polite. "Yes." He handed her the envelope. "You've been served." Her face drained of color as she clutched the papers, eyes darting from the server to me. The man gave a curt nod and left without another word, leaving silence to fill the space he'd abandoned. "Divorce papers," I said, my voice low, almost trembling. I knew, the unraveling. Her lips parted, but no words came. Finally, she managed, "Tom, wait. It's not what you think." "Not what I think." I snapped, rising to my feet. "You spent tonight with another man. After 24 years, Diane, 24 years. Tears welled in her eyes, but I wasn't sure if they were from guilt or fear of losing everything. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I felt like something was missing. You've been so distant, so focused on work." I laughed bitterly. "Distant, Diane, I was working for us every late night, every extra shift. It was for this house, for our kids, for you. And you repaid me by running into another man's arms." She flinched as if my words had struck her. "I didn't plan it. It just happened. That's the excuse of every cheater," I said coldly. "You didn't plan it, but you didn't stop it either. The past crashes down." She sank onto the couch, the divorce papers shaking in her hands. Do you really want to throw away everything we've built 24 years? Tom, our family, our memories. Don't you dare talk about family, I interrupted, my voice sharp. You threw that away the moment you chose a date over your husband. You made your choice tonight, and I made mine. Her tears spilled freely now, but I felt numb. I thought of the nights I held her when her mother died. The day our son was born, and I cried harder than she did. The laughter we once shared over burnt dinners and broken washing machines. All of it felt tainted now, poisoned by one night that revealed the truth. I was never enough for her. The silence of the house, the silence that followed, was unbearable. Diane sat there trembling, whispering half-formed apologies I couldn't accept. Finally, I stood and said, "I'll sleep in the guest room tonight. Tomorrow, you can start packing." She looked at me, desperation flickering in her eyes. "Tom, please. I still love you." I paused at the doorway, my back to her. "You don't love me, Diane. You love the idea of me being here while you chase someone else. That's not love. It's convenience." And with that, I left her sobbing on the couch. The aftermath. The following weeks were a blur of lawyers, paperwork, and whispered conversations with our children. My daughter cried when she found out, blaming herself somehow. My son clenched his fists in silent rage, barely speaking to his mother. Diane tried reaching out, tried begging for another chance, but the process had already started, and I wasn't turning back. Every time I thought of her smile that night, walking into our home after being with another man, my resolve hardened. The final goodbye, the day the divorce was finalized. We sat across from each other in the courthouse. Diane's face was pale, her eyes swollen from crying. I wanted to feel pity, but all I felt was emptiness. When it was over, she whispered, "I never thought it would end like this." I looked at her, the woman I once believed would be by my side until the end of my life. "Neither did I said softly. "But you made sure it did." She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. That was the last time we spoke. Reflection. Now, months later, the house feels both lonelier and freer. I still catch myself setting to plates at the dinner table out of habit. Still find traces of her perfume on the pillows she left behind. But the silence no longer feels suffocating, feels like healing. I've learned that betrayal doesn't just break your heart, it reshapes you. It forces you to confront who you are without the person you thought you couldn't live without. Diane went on a Friday night date, and I sent her a process server. It was the hardest decision I've ever made, but also the one that saved me, because in the end, it wasn't just about her betrayal. It was about reclaiming my dignity, my peace, and the years of my life I refused to let her waste any longer, and that I realized was worth more than 24 years of lies.